Friends, we've got some super exciting news from Novo Nordisk today about a future anti-obesity medication that's just getting started using some kind of old ideas that previously weren't too successful. But we're going to get into all of it and why I'm excited about it. Before we do, would you hit the like button, the little thumbs up button, and hit the subscribe button? We're almost to 15,000 followers here on YouTube, and you got to help us get there. So if you watch the content and enjoy the content, many of you aren't subscribed. If you could just hit subscribe, help us get to that 15,000 number. That would be so great. But we're going to talk about a new potential discovery announced by Novo Nordisk this week. The hits just keep on coming. If you are an investor in Novo Nordisk, now might be the time to take a look at it again. A couple of great things on the horizon. First of all, today we learned that Novo Nordisk got European Union approval for the acquisition of Catalent, which ultimately would net Novo Nordisk 3 manufacturing facilities to help make more Ozempic, Wegovy, and CagriSema when it comes out. This is huge, 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 huge. It has to pass US regulators as well, but considering that it already passed the EU pretty easily, I'm pretty confident that it'll probably pass the United States regulators at the FTC as well, but we'll have to see. No guarantee. But if that good news comes, that'll be a huge boon for Novo Nordisk. Of course, we've also seen some really good news from Novo Nordisk sort of starting to leak out about the CagriSema trials. If the CagriSema trial data that is supposed to be released in the next couple of weeks here shows 25% or more weight loss, I think that's going to be a huge boon for Novo Nordisk. And then there's this news today. So to put this news in sort of the proper context, we've got to understand a little bit about leptin. So we talk somewhat about leptin and ghrelin in this channel here. Ghrelin is a hormone that was discovered in around 1999. It increases hunger and stimulates food by activating neurons in the hypothalamus, specifically in the arcuate nucleus. Now, this can't wait peptide that I've been talking to you about, DNF10, works on lowering ghrelin because ghrelin, the ghrelin hormone, levels of it rise before your meal, signaling hunger and promoting eating. And it signals to the body that basically the energy reserves are low. So something like DNF10 that decreases ghrelin can help you eat less. Leptin, conversely, was also discovered in the early 90s. Both these hormones in my lifetime, which is amazing to think about how far we've come. Leptin, on the other hand, decreases hunger. It signals satiety to the brain when sufficient energy has been stored in fat cells, and the levels of leptin rise with increased fat stores and signal to the brain to reduce food intake and increase energy expenditure. So these are kind of two synergistic hormones that work with signaling hunger, right? So you might say, well, why don't they just develop a drug that mimics leptin? Well, they've tried it before. Okay, so back in 1994, when leptin was discovered by a guy named Jeffrey Friedman at the Rockefeller University, they basically took the hormone. Actually, Amgen, the company Amgen, who's working on Maritide right now, bought the rights to it way back in the 90s for around $20 million. They bought the rights to it, and early leptin treatments that they tested included recombinant leptin analogs. So analogs, just like the GLP-1s that we see with Ozempic, it's an analog of a naturally occurring hormone. And those were called metroleptin and pegylated analogs. And so these basically were given to people, but what they learned in this process is that it wasn't really about not having enough leptin, and giving people more didn't really help. It was about a leptin resistance that develops in the brain. And so feeding more analog versions of it didn't seem to really help. And so what they really learned is that most people that benefited from leptin therapy were actually people that were deficient in the hormone in the first place. So Amgen pretty much just abandoned the leptin development because it had limited efficacy and it had pretty significant side effects and high costs. Later on, metroleptin was approved all the way back in 2014 for treating lipodystrophy, a rare condition involving leptin deficiency, like we talked about. So you might say, well, how does this all relate to the news today? Well, we talked about how Novo Nordisk has developed analogs of GLP-1 and how that really has exploded into a whole class of medications like the ones we always talk about. The interesting thing is what they have found. They've developed a new compound that takes GLP-1 activity and leptin receptor activation. So they find that there's potentially some sort of synergistic 1-2 punch approach that enhances appetite suppression and weight loss in early trials with mice. Now, they found similar neurons that this is acting on in the brain in rhesus monkeys. And so they'll do studies there as well. But the presence of these same neurons in humans remains to be unconfirmed. So we've got these animal trials going on, and it's showing some really exciting things from a weight loss perspective in animals. But as we know, it doesn't always translate to humans. For instance, with semaglutide and tirzepatide both, there was an exorbitant amount of percentage of weight loss in mice. They get those to human trials, tends to mellow out a little bit, right? So essentially what we need here is we need some human trials to determine whether there's viability to combining these two therapies. But the thought of this maybe translating to humans the way that it is in animals right now is super, super exciting for Novo Nordisk. Of course, they're also working on amycretin, which is a weight loss pill showing huge weight loss in a short amount of time in phase 1 trials. It's like these treatments are getting so effective at the weight loss department. Like, it's going to be so interesting to see how the conversation changes over the next couple of years as like it becomes less about like how fast can we get somebody down a certain amount of weight, but like how fast can we transform somebody's body that is high in visceral fat, that is high in the bad, kind of fat, and convert that over to muscle and change the whole body composition. But it will be interesting to follow this one. It's very, very early on, but we wanted to talk about it right away because the news kind of came out this week. The scientific community is increasingly exploring how leptin augmentation or ghrelin augmentation or these other pathways like amylin can maybe synergistically be used with what we know are super effective treatments already. And so basically what you're seeing is basically multi-pathway drugs. And I mean, the next one that we have is CagriSema, GLP-1, and amylin, which is co-secreted in the pancreas with insulin. You see retatrutide, which is GLP-1, GIP2 incretin hormones combined with a long-acting glucagon agonism. So there's these multiple pathways that seem to be the future of these medications. And I, for one, am really excited to see that maybe after all, there is some hope for dealing with leptin, and we'll be watching it super, super closely. So wanted to just kind of let you know about that as that is new information that is dropped this week. I think it's super exciting. Again, I've been combining my own multi-therapy using Manjaro and can't wait. If you're interested in this, the link's in the description of this video. This one works on ghrelin. Again, ghrelin and leptin were both discovered in the 90s. This was just, a non-pharmaceutical way. This peptide is a non-pharmaceutical short chain. It can be taken orally, bioavailable, and it's been working great for me. And the word on the street from the people who are receiving free bottles and the many people who have ordered these bottles is that it seems to be working for about 90% of the people that I've heard back from. There's been a couple people like haven't noticed anything yet. It took a couple weeks for me to notice anything, but now if I accidentally forget to take it in the morning, it makes a huge difference throughout my day. So something to check out for sure. Talk to your doctor before you try anything, and definitely check out all the information about it at the link in my description of the channel here. But thanks for listening today. I'm really excited about this. I am really also excited to see how many comments we get in this video about my haircut because I surprised my wife and I buzzed it all down. Yeah, so usually I got the hat on and I was like, we'll just see how many comments we get about the hair today or lack thereof. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Thank you for being the best part of what we do here at On the Pen. Until next week, I hope that you all have a great weekend. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment and let me know what you think about this information today. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a great one. Thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate y'all. Mwah.